What's that? Well, that's later on in the class. Okay. See, most people have a warranty deed. And a warranty deed is called an abstract of title. I used to own 20% of a title company, and I didn't know this. The one I owned it. Yeah. Had a real estate company, 2 mortgage companies, a building supply company, 3 development companies, a construction company with 96 employees. I had a specialty building supply company at one time. I was doing pretty well. And I didn't know all this, so they took it away from me. Took everything away from me. Sure. Did you know all mortgages in the United States are fraud? Every one of them. Every one is fraud. Did you know your mortgage was paid off? Your mortgage was paid off the moment you signed the mortgage application and they accepted it. You know who paid it off? You did. See, you're not a debtor, you're a creditor, you just don't know. You don't know. They want you to think you're a debtor and that you're indebted to them.
Download the DS11 form off your computer.
Paid off that loan, and you don't know why, do you? Okay, I'm going to teach you guys why. I'm giving you, what I'm doing right here is it's called a tease. I'm teasing you with a lot of little things that we're going to cover later in depth. Okay? But I'm trying to wake you up right now. Wake you up to things you don't know. But you can go through this whole thing, and it's case law, Supreme case law, everything of why you don't need a driver's license to drive. Okay? Now, there are 3 cases where you do need a driver's license. When you're hauling passengers for hire. Are you an Uber driver, Lyft driver, a taxi driver, a bus driver? You need a driver's license. Are you hauling goods or services for interstate commerce? A truck driver, you need a driver's license. Are you a public servant in the performance of your public duties? A cop, a fireman, driving a fire truck, whatever. An ambulance driver, you need a driver's license. But if you're just getting up in the morning, leaving your house, going to the store, going to work, going to a movie, coming home, doing whatever it is you do, you're in your private business affairs. You don't need a driver's license. That's what about a title? You don't own your car. You don't own a car. No, you don't. You have a certificate of title. You don't own your car either. The state owns it. See, here's the thing. All right, let's tell you a little story. I happen to like Chevy crew cab, long bed, Duramax diesel trucks because I like farming and ranching. Okay? Yeah. If I walk into a Chevy dealership, it's called an automobile dealership, right? It's not called a motor vehicle dealership because it's not a motor vehicle when they sell it to you. It only becomes a motor vehicle when you title, license, and register it. Before that, it's an automobile. It's private. Who was our first car insurance company in the United States? It was called Travelers Insurance. It was designed for travelers. That's what we are. We're travelers. We travel from point A to point B in our private business affairs 99% of the time. Okay? You walk into an automobile dealership, if I laid out $75,000 cash for a brand new crew cab Duramax diesel pickup, you might be 80 by now. At that moment in time, I own that truck. But the minute the salesman looks at me and says, I need another $250 for title, license, and registration, please. And I give them another $250 instead of that stack of $75,000. That's the moment I gifted that pickup to the state. So what I do is I look at them and I say, no, that's not necessary. I'm going to export it to a foreign country. And then when I get in and I turn the key and I drive it off of their lot, I'm driving it out of the state of Oregon into Oregon. I just exported it into a foreign nation. Yeah, manufacturer's statement of origin is in that little envelope that comes with your truck. When you pay the $250, he removes that. He fills it out. He sends it to the state. He sent the state the title, and you get a certificate. A certificate means there's a title out there somewhere, but you don't have it. You don't have it. You don't own these cars. If you own your car, they can't do anything to you. Wait, by the time we're into this 3-day thing, you're going to be blown away. I'm telling you. Okay? See, the reason I talk so much about driving and automobiles is because that's usually the first place any one of us gets into trouble in our life. We get a ticket or something else. But it's usually associated with driving or operating a motor vehicle by a person, a citizen, or a resident. So what is the legal definition of the word citizen?
Be prepared to engage the enemy.
City is municipal. Zen is servant. A municipal servant. Isn't that what our public servants are? We're calling ourselves the same thing we're calling our public servants. We registered with the Department of Human Resources, with the HR department of the state of, by the way, where's the state of Utah located? 44 Northwest Congress Avenue, Washington, D.C. Okay? It's not even in Utah. Utah is a foreign nation to the state of Utah. What about the city of Riverton? That's a subsidiary of the county of Salt Lake County, which is the subsidiary to the state of Utah. They're all private for-profit entities. Bill Clinton revealed that to everybody. He sold off all of government. Everything is a private for-profit entity. Everything that wasn't already previously sold off, which was most of it to begin with. He sold off what was left. A private for-profit entity. It has a Dun & Bradstreet number. Anybody know what Dun & Bradstreet is? It's a credit reporting agency for corporations, right? So if they've got a Dun & Bradstreet number, that means they're a corporation, right? What does the Supreme Court say? It says that governments have chosen to incorporate, they must follow the same rules as any other corporation. Well, wait a minute. Can a guy wearing a Walmart shirt, a blue shirt, come into your house, kick your door down, and steal your kids? What would you do? Well, wait a minute. City of Riverton Police is a private for-profit entity, a corporation with the Dun & Bradstreet number. They're no different than Walmart. They operate through the consent of the government. They have to get your tacit agreement that you're a citizen, a person, or resident. What is the legal definition of the word person? An entity or a vessel? An entity or a vessel. What is the legal definition of the word resident? Someone there temporarily to do business. What's your zip code, Jody? By writing that on the letter to your grandmother, by writing your zip code on the letter to your grandmother, you just told the United States Postal Service, and what are our courts? Post offices. See, I already teased you with that, right? They're banks and post offices. So, by writing this on the letter to your grandmother, you just told the Postal Service, our court system, that you inhabit, that you live in Washington, D.C., and that you just reside in Riverton temporarily to do business.
The storm is closing in.
So there's 337 million people in the United States who live in Washington, D.C., and about 40,000 state nationals who live in the rest of the state. You guys just move in temporarily to do business all around us. How do you feel about that? Huh? Huh? It's the truth. Huh? Why do you put brackets around the zip code? No, to remove it from the contract. It's called the boxing rule. In four corners. The four corners rule, the boxing rule. Brackets have four corners. 5 years ago, I was made an ambassador for the Voice of Youth program. Voice of Youth was part of the World Benefit Church. The World Benefit Church was put into place for one reason and one reason only. Not to have a congregation and preach the gospel, but to educate world leaders on God's laws, on what's right and what's wrong. It's the only reason they were put into place. The Voice of Youth program was put into place to be the voice of people who couldn't speak for themselves, our minors. What is the legal definition of the word minor? It's someone under the age of 18, right? We all know that part of it. Or, this part we don't know, someone of any age who hasn't claimed their minor estate. Have you claimed your minor estate? You're a minor. Have you? Have you? Did you even know you had a minor estate? What if I told you you were worth millions of dollars and you didn't even know it? And what if I could prove it to you? And that you have a trust fund, and you're all trust fund babies. And that trust fund is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And so when you signed that mortgage, they borrowed out of your trust fund and paid it off. And then you just keep paying it back. And paying it back. And paying it back. Why is that? 5 years ago, as ambassador of Voice of Youth, I gave a speech at The Hague. And I told our world leaders the story of a mother. And the story of a mother, I was told afterwards from just about everybody that this is the most important story that should be told every man, woman, and child on earth, but that they don't want me to tell it. You never tell me not to do something that's right, because then I'm going to tell it over and over and over again. Okay? A mother, 9 months pregnant, pay close attention to this, guys. I'm telling you, it's important for your life,
Keep an
your
eye on the
children's lives,
storm.
your grandchildren's lives for generations to come. But a mother, 9 months pregnant, walks into a foundling hospital. What is the legal definition of the word foundling? It's a safe place to abandon a child. Did you know all churches, all hospitals, all police stations, and all fire stations in the United States are designated as foundling by Congress? You can take a baby and put it in a basket and walk into any of those 4 locations and set that basket down on the floor and smile and wave and walk out without any consequences to yourself whatsoever. You can imagine that? You can abandon a child? But they designated those places as foundling hospitals. Did they tell you? On a brass plaque somewhere in an obscure location inside the hospital, probably under a stairwell, it says this hospital is a foundling hospital. Foundling hospital. So a mother, 9 months pregnant, walks into a foundling hospital. She goes through a major medical procedure called childbirth, where she's in pain and under duress. She's probably under the influence of painkillers of some kind. It'd be pretty tough to get rid of. Anyway, she has that beautiful baby, and all she's thinking about is getting home with it. But see, the baby, history, or not history, came out of the water, was tugged through the birth canal, was docked at the dock by the doctor, where a bill of lading was filled out for disease on the cargo, where its soul was taken. Its soul was taken. The placenta was taken. They took the baby's soul and they sent it out with a tug and is presumed dead and lost at sea until it should
Time to
return to
move.
claim its
The
minor
spell storm is
state.
closing.
No physician delivered the baby. Only a doctor does. A doctor is a doctor. The baby is a vessel. A ship. That's where the all caps name comes in. You look at the names of ships are in all capital letters. No one disclosed the terms and conditions of the contract. Yet you were handed a stack of papers to fill out, and you were only told, and this was right on the nurse's manual, this is just to register your baby with the state and to give it a name. And you fill out the paperwork, and you name your baby, and you sign as an informant. What is the legal definition of the word informant? Someone who gives someone else up to another, thereby giving the title and equity of your child to the state. This creates a doctrine called parens patriae. So she's right there. It's Latin for state as your parent. State as your parent. It creates a doctrine of parens patriae. With this doctrine, that's how they have control over you. And through your consent, the insurgents with pretty I'll see you doing that now. All right, I'll throw something at you. Anyway, the doctrine of parens patriae. So, no terms and
Head inwards.
conditions of the
The
sales
spell
contract
storm
were
is
given.
moving.
No full and honest disclosure of the contract. No two wedding signatures. No one there was securities licensed, insurance license. No prospectus was given. If you go to your stockbroker and you want to invest in a corporation, he is required by law to give you a prospectus, right? And you weren't given one. What I'm trying to teach you here is it was all done through fraud, without any full and honest disclosure of the contract. You were licensed, bonded, insured, your vessel was created, a sus to QB trust was created. A sus to QB trust is an individual trust underneath the umbrella of the public charitable trust. So the Public Charitable Trust Act of 1882 created the Public Charitable Trust. The Sesta QV Trust Act created the Sesta QV Trust, each individual trust that you all have through your birth certificate and registration. On your birth certificate, there's a bank name. It's on bond paper. There's a
Get moving, Breaker. The spell storm's coming.
CUSIP number. What is a CUSIP number? It's an investment control number that's regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. If you were born between 1933 and 1975, you were bonded for $630,000 and insured for $1 million. If you were born
Time
after
to move. The spell storm's
1975,
closing.
you were bonded for $1 million and insured for $2 million. Now, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let's keep the initial investment. just one time ago, you were a few days old, right? So like me, I was born on April 20th, on 4/20. So I knew there would be one in the crowd. And my vessel was created on 5/3. Two different dates, two different events. My vessel was born on May the 3rd. I was born on April 20th. For that period of time, I was a state national. In fact, I was in California. I was born in California. I was a state national. I was a free, independent, one of the and then I got registered, and I became a citizen, a person, and a resident. And I lost all my diplomatic allegiance. I lost it all. I became a servant, a slave. See, the 13th Amendment of the Constitution treated black slaves, and the 14th Amendment of the Constitution made all of us slaves. See, there's a natural law that says that which one creates, one controls. God created me and he controlled me. Without any full and honest disclosure of the conditions of the contract,
Nice work,
no
Breaker.
one even
Seems
licensed
your
to
training
explain
has
it
served you
available.
well.
My mother warded me to the state in a birth ward. I became a ward of the state. Why do you think a birthing ward is called a ward? I became a ward of the state, a ward of the court, under the doctrine of parens patriae. I became a slave, and I didn't even know it. I grew up thinking I was free. I fought for this country. I thought I was free. I got shot. I thought I was doing it for the right reasons, so I was free. Now I teach veterans how to get rid of PTSD, and I can do it in 20 minutes. I know guys that have been going to psychologists for years and taking drugs for years trying to get rid of their PTSD, and it destroys their wives and their families and themselves. And I can solve it in 20 minutes. How? I explain a little something that's off track. So would you do me a favor? Remind me to do it, okay? It's very important. All right. What happens? What happens at our birth with the SESTA QV? First of all, we have a PCT, Public Charitable Trust, umbrella. There's 337 million little CQVs, SESTA QV trusts, one for each of us, right? In this country. Yeah, every individual in the United States and in most countries of the world have a SESTA QV trust. And we have this CQV. And here's what happens, and this is incredibly important. You all know basic accounting? What is that? It's a balance sheet, right? A balance sheet. It's got debits and credits. You guys have been thinking you're the debtor. They keep telling us that, right? We're in debt. We're a debtor. We owe money on credit cards. We owe money on our houses. We owe money on everything. What happens at birth, though, and I'm just going to use the figures from 75 to now because it's round numbers. We were bonded for $1 million. What does that mean? That means the bank went to the International Monetary Fund, and the bank, on behalf of the public, under your CUSIP number, borrowed from the International Monetary Fund $1 million in ones, fives, tens, 20s, 50s, hundreds, and they threw it out there into the general public. They distributed that $1 million to the bank for every person who's born. That's what they do. On the credit side, $1 million worth of United States Treasury bonds are issued, and they're sold. They're hypothecated. They are bundled, and they are sold on the stock exchange. And if we wanted to, I could pull up a website if we had internet access, and I could put in one of your CUSIP numbers, and I could show you the companies that are buying and selling you today. You have more than one CUSIP number, by the way. As we increase in value, I'll just put it that way, as we get better in our life, the more we join the military or get more college degrees, we get more and more CUSIP numbers. You are the credit. You are the creditor. They're making you believe you're also the debtor. And you are. You're both. This is your vessel. This is you. Okay? This is your labor. This is your work. I got 5 college degrees. Every time I got an advanced degree in college, I got a new CUSIP. In the military, we got a new CUSIP. All these CUSIP numbers are attached to my main birth number. This is a bad spot. Anyway, let's stop here.
Where shall we
It's a
land
balance
today,
sheet, right?
Breaker?
It's balanced. It's got $1 million on one side, $1 million on the other. This gets invested. It keeps growing and growing and growing. And let's just say it grows to $100 million. And by the way, that figure's low. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. I've seen individuals worth $35 billion or more that didn't know they had a dime. Okay? It keeps growing and growing and growing. Our first 18 years of life, we're not spending anything. So nothing is going over here, our first 18 years. That's growing and growing and growing for 18 years, and it's being hypothecated and traded. They've done a good job of managing it. They really have. First 18 years, it's growing and growing and growing. You're not spending anything. You're not adding anything to the debit side. Then you go get a job, and you get married, and you go out and you buy a house. I'm just going to use numbers. And the numbers themselves don't matter. It's the concept, okay? You buy a car or two, you buy some utilities or two over your lifetime, some medical bills, some food, whatever. They keep track of it all through your tax returns, your credit card, your bank statements. Banking is all tied into the IMF, the Federal Reserve. We've got a big buildings of a bean counter called the Department of Fiscal Services, and those accountants just keep track of everything. Everybody's life. And this all starts to add up on the debit side. And this just keeps growing and growing and growing on the investment side. At some point in time, you die, and it goes through probate. They take some of this, and let's just say over your lifetime you spent, I'm going to round it off to $10 million. So they subtract $10 million out of your investment, and they pay off all this, and it becomes a zero balance. They even pay back the initial loan to the International Monetary Fund, plus interest. That was a loan from a foreign entity, by the way, to the public charitable trust. And they pay it back. The balance is zero. Now this has, let's just say for this discussion, has $90 million left in it. What happens to it? The Sesta Trust lives on in perpetuity forever. Everyone who has ever died since 1933 is currently funding government. This money gets reinvested. They can't take this, but the balance must stay the same forever. But if it keeps earning, they just take it off the top. And it funds government. It's called off-book funds. In the states, USA, in the federal government, it's CQB. And it continues to fund government. Why do you think they don't care if they spend $3 trillion on foreign entities? It came out of your
Move
trust.
quickly.
It's
The
not
storm is
part of
closing in.
taxes. In fact, if you took the entire federal budget, how much is derived from taxes and tariffs? Call up the Department of Fiscal Service and send a FOIA request, and you ask them, who is the largest contributor to the federal budget? The Department of Justice. To the tune of $1 trillion a day is taken out of our Social Security trusts and our court systems every day. $1 trillion. That's more in 25 days than our entire gross domestic product in a year. In 25 days. They don't have to disclose the CQB. See, I had to prove this in federal court to get to talk about it. So, a big portion of this comes out of this before we die. Every time you have a court case, the case is a CUSIP number. The case, the court clerk is the bank. Mary, at the 9th District of Federal Court, I showed how upon indictment, now when someone gets indicted, are they found guilty? No, they're not found guilty. They haven't even been tried. But upon indictment,
Dumb bitch.
upon indictment, Mary filled out the SF-273 form with the Department of Fiscal Services, which is called a bid bond form. She told the Department of Fiscal Services with this form to begin liquidation of this person's account, because we're going to need some of them. You got to remember, they're in U.S. Treasury bonds. They're not liquid capital. They have to be sold off. That takes a little bit of time, right? So she filled out that form in this particular case in October. The trial was set for January. Didn't happen until April. Upon the day of the trial, the exact day of the trial, Mary filled out the SF-274 form with the Department of Fiscal Services, which is called a performance bond, telling the Department of Fiscal Services that this person has been found guilty and they will have to perform. Performance bond. It's notifying someone that
Get moving, Breaker.
they're gonna have to
The
perform.
spellstorm's coming.
Okay. This was supposed to take place July 13th. I pushed it to August 30th. Mary filled out the SF-275 form, which is the payment form. It's no different than a wire transfer form. It would have told the Department of Fiscal Services to wire transfer that money to the court. Now, what money am I talking about? The penal sum. So, an indictment is a bill, true bill. If you don't pay the bill, you're brought up on charges. You're tried for those charges. This particular case, the woman, the grandmother, had 4 felony counts of fraud. Each had a penal sum, each count had a penal sum of $2 million. That's $8 million total. In addition to that $8 million, the judge is going to receive $95,000 in what they call net retention. And the prosecutor, 50,000 per count. 4 counts. Oh no, because they shared that with the defense attorney that she had, that she paid $27,000 out of her pocket to represent. So what is the legal definition of the word attorney? Anybody know? Not the ones that watch my class. Gotta watch it. An actor to a term. The legal definition of the word actor is someone who gets up on stage and lies convincingly enough to make you believe in the character in the plot. Therefore, a liar.
Get moving, Breaker.
What is to a term? To steal from one and turn over to another. So by the very definition of their profession, they're liars and thieves. God only warned us about 4 professions in the Bible. You know what they were? Bankers, attorneys, doctors, and organized religion. Why did he warn us about organized religion? Joseph Smith warned the Mormon church about organized religion. He said that someday in the future it would be corrupted by men. He said that. In fact, he says, I doubt it will last 75 to 100 years. And he was right. How many people are not brought up LDS in this room? Just a couple. Okay. That's right. I'm going to talk to you about the church. I grew up LDS. In fact, my mother was born in Lehigh in a one-room log cabin in a dirt floor on the Indian reservation while her dad taught English to the Indians here in 1917. My dad, in the 50s, right after he got out of the war in World War II, he was on a Navy in the USS Texas. He ran the church welfare. He's head of all the church welfare. My family has a long history here. The Bennetts were the contractors for Brigham Young. They built Brigham Young's house. They were the ones on the Church of Fairlake. My grandmother. My mom's son. My
Time to
grandmother
move.
was born
The spellstone's closing.
somewhere in Nebraska along the Platte River in the back of the land on the way here. So I printed off DNC 98. What is the Doctrine and Covenants? Doctrine is the laws the church is to live by. Covenant is a promise to live by those laws. That's why it's called a doctrine and a covenant. They promise to live by these laws. 98. I'm just going to read a little bit. My eyes are bad, so, and the writing is small. We'll start with verse 3. Therefore he giveth this promise unto you with an immutable covenant, that it shall be fulfilled, and all things wherewith you have been afflicted shall work together for your good, and to my name's glory, saith the Lord. And now verily I say unto you concerning the laws of the land, it is my will that my people should observe to do all things whatsoever I command them, that the law of the land, which is constitutional, supporting the principles of freedom in maintaining rights and privileges, belongs to all mankind and is justifiable before me.
Get moving, Breaker. The spellstone's coming.
Therefore, I, the Lord, justify you and your brethren of my church in befriending that law, which is the constitutional law of the land. He says, make it your friend. The Constitution. That's our supreme law. And as pertaining to the law of man, whatsoever is more or less than this cometh of evil. I, the Lord God, made you
Time to
free,
move.
therefore
The
ye are
spellstorm
free
is
indeed,
closing.
and the law also maketh you free. Nevertheless, when the wicked rule, the people mourn. Wherefore, honest men and wise men should be sought for diligently, and good men and wise men ye should observe to uphold. Otherwise, whatsoever is less than this cometh of evil. Rules, codes, statutes, and ordinances are not law. What is the legal definition of the word legal? This is going to just kick your butts when I tell you what the definition of the word legal is. It is the undoing of God's law. What is legal is not lawful. And what is lawful is not legal. Let that sink in for just a second. What is legal is the undoing of God's laws. All throughout the Bible, God taught us a lot of things, and I studied the Bible very, very well for a lot of years. And I went to every religion on earth that I could go to. I've been to China, I've sat with the Buddhists, I've been all over this world. When I was in intelligence with the government, when they had something that dealt with religion, they sent me. They sent me into the basement of the Vatican with a group of people to look at the lost scrolls. And we brought out, the United States government brought out of the basement the Maccabees, Esther, the Wisdom of Solomon, many books of the Bible that weren't in the Bible. Okay? And there's many more down there. Many more. The Catholic Church suppressed us like you wouldn't believe. They kept so many things hidden from us. There are books of the Bible that reveal exactly what is happening in this world today. And we recorded it. And we know what it is. And anyway, I'll go into some more off camera. But what I'm trying to tell you, I quit going to church 20 years ago. Doesn't mean I don't believe in the basic core teachings of this church. I do. I think they're the best family-oriented, most common sense church on the face of the planet. But I also know, just like Joseph Smith knew, that men would corrupt it at the highest levels. And all you have to do is ask yourself, who of the prophet and the 12 apostles are lawyers? That's all you have to ask. Okay? When I gave that talk in church, I was removed from the stand, hauled to the bishop's office, talked to.
Choose your land and vote carefully.
That's right. That's right. Tell an attorney that statutes aren't law. That what's legal is the undoing of God's laws. He never learned that in law school. So they base everything on a penal sum. No matter what crime it is you have, it's commercial. All crimes are commercial. So they get paid a net retention. Our Department of Justice collects the majority of our federal budget through our precinct numbers out of our Cesta QB trust. And they collect a great deal of that while we're still alive. Every time we go to court. In the state courts, it's called the GSA program. The federal clerks, if you look at Portland, Oregon's building that pretty much Antifa destroyed, the federal courthouse in Portland, but it's a 5-story building with 2 more stories below ground. Okay? Judge Mosman, he's no longer there, but he had the top 4, him and his aides. U.S. Marshal Service has the bottom 4 down in the basement. That's the marshals. Then there's 2 more floors of judges and courtrooms, 2 floors. All the rest of this building are court clerks. Court clerks. Why do they need hundreds? I mean, they're in cubicles. Why do they need? This building covers an entire city block. It's a big building. Why do they need so many court clerks? They're bank tellers. Mary, the head court clerk, Mary runs all the tellers. She's the bank president. She handles all the bonds. The federal courts buy all the state bonds. So everything that happens in the 9th district, which is California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, anything that happens in any of those state courts under the GSAs, the federal government buys them. The federal court buys them from the states. That's what funds the states. And then they collect out of our trusts through the Department of Fiscal Services. So those people are sitting there in their cubicles, typing on the computer, and they're filling out the SF-273, 274, and 275 forms all day long. It's a bane.
Your enemies have captured
So
the
when these blue and white lights come on behind you, and you got that policy enforcement revenue collection agent behind you, who the Supreme Court has said has no obligation to protect you. No, it's not their duty. It is not the police officer's duty to protect you. Their job title is a policy revenue collection agent. They're to help fund the counties and the cities. They presume you're a citizen of personal risk. Your status. This is called status. Anybody know what status is?
two objectives in enemy hands.
Did you know there was more than one? They just didn't want to know this crap, did they? See, in Title 8, Section 1101 of the United States Code, it says definitions of statuses. These are the definitions of status the United States government accepts. Right? You can be a U.S. citizen or a U.S. national or state citizen or state national or a variety of other
Which one
things
don't desire?
that they accept. But what are you? Just to be the one that they have control over. Isn't that crazy? It is status. They presume for status. This government works off of unrebutted presumption. Unrebutted presumption. They steal your house by making a lot of clerical errors and you don't correct them and you acquiesce. You just pay the bills. And you don't correct those errors. And they stole it from you on behalf of the state.
Two zones belong to your team.
They steal your car when you go to the dealership and buy one by making a statement with the clerical errors that you fill out, you sign, you consent to, and then they stole your car. You didn't even know it. You come home and tell your family, look at my new car!
Two zones
Yes.
Smell good? Got that new car smell? So nice.
This is the last bit.
You don't have the MSRDM. Now, they assume you did something wrong. You did 70 and a 55. Doesn't matter what it is. They assume you did something wrong. They get your tacit agreement of you being a citizen, a person, or resident. And then they get up on stand and they lie. And your attorney sits there and says, and then the hammer gets dropped, and every lie that they said became truth and fact upon the record. You acquiesced to it. And your attorney knew that. He knows he's supposed to be up to it. There's summons you into court. What is the summons? It's a seance. There weren't wearing black robes. It's a satanic ritual. They summon you into court, a seance, calling the dead in court. And there's two ways for you to appear in court. There's only two. It's in the law. There's general appearance. That's where you just show up generally, and you accept jurisdiction. Like
Your
what's
honor
right.
has all knowledge.
Get your tacit agreement of you being a person resident. You just show up. They call the dead into court, and there you are. They call out your all caps name, and you don't say, "No, that's not me, Your Honor. It's my vessel. I take the ownership of that vessel. I claim the minor estate." First words out of your mouth in a courtroom should be warned. Okay, I'm sitting down in the back row. Judge walks in. Caitlin says, "All rise." I went back on my chair and I put my feet up. I sure ain't gonna stand when he walks in. That's giving him jurisdiction. When an employee walks into the room, does this boss stand? No. He's my public servant. I have to take control of the court immediately. If you stand, you're the employee, he's the boss. He's giving you a tacit agreement. You're turning over jurisdiction to him. I'll get into that.
The sun's known as yours.
Okay, we have about 60 people in Cody Smith's court case in Oregon. And I met with everybody before we went. And I told them, not only do not stand when the judge walks in, but I want you to make a concerted effort to lean back and put your feet up. There was one reporter on each side of there was one voice when they started running over the top of 30. We all said, "Let him speak," in one voice. But the court changed. What I tell people is, rally the troops, get them in there on your behalf. If you can get at least 25 people in the audience doing what I'm just telling you to do, when you stand up there, say, "I'm here by special divine appearance, Your Honor, to call for a constitutional court of record, and I brought a grand jury with me." What is the definition of peers? No, here's one that's really got screwed up by the definition. When you call for a jury trial or a trial by jury, what's the difference? Do you guys know? Always call for a trial by jury.
Two objectives and
Why call for a trial by jury? But the trial by jury, the jury decides your fate. A jury trial, the judge can override the jury's decision and do whatever he wants. And they will try and force you into a jury trial. They will.
Stars are captured by the
Now,
entity.
here's a definition twist on the word peers. The definition of the word peers is someone from your own neighborhood who knows your character and your situation in life, for only then can you feel character. What do they get? They question the jury because they don't want anybody that doesn't even know you. They want people from other counties, other areas of the state. They want to rig the trial, the railroad you. The railroad is to lead somebody down a narrow path of rail to a predetermined outlook or conclusion, and that's the path. That making any sense yet? Now the fraud in which we pursue. It's ridiculous. And when you stand up from that back row, when they call your name, the very first words out of your mouth when you stand up and you take your first step is, "I'm here by special divine appearance, Judge, to settle this matter." To call for a constitutional court of record,
Bitter taste of defeat.
to ask for a summary judgment
Seems
upon the
like
truth
one
and
of
facts
them.
placed upon this record by my documents. And I stand firmly upon my rights. Can I get that summary judgment, Your Honor? This thing is over with. They have to do a summary judgment. The rule of three. Rule of three applies in all things. Celestial, terrestrial, and telestial, right? Rule of three. You have to ask them 3 times. And if they have an important question, they're supposed to ask you 3 times. And if not, you can say, "What did you say again?" How does a judge